They said his church was the fastest growing in Lagos. People called him Man of Fire, but only the river knew the secret behind his power and the heavy price waiting to be paid. Before the fame, before the miracles, before the crowds shouting amen, there was just one man, one Bible, and a leaking roof. Pastor Josiah Okonkwo was a thin, tired man with a dream too big for his pocket. His church, Holy Mountain of Divine Fire, was nothing more than a small wooden building tucked between two mechanic workshops in Ajigona, Lagos. The benches were old, the fans didn't work, and the offering basket rarely saw more than a few crumpled naira notes. Every Sunday, Pastor Josiah would preach with all his heart. He would shout, sweat, and pray loud enough for the heavens to hear. But the heavens were silent. His members were few, just Mama Kemi, her children, and two elderly women who came mostly for the free rice on Sundays. Things were hard. His shoes had holes. His wife, Ngozi, sold akara by the roadside to help them eat. People mocked him. Even young pastors with Instagram pages had more followers than him. One night, as he sat outside the church staring at the stars, an old friend came to visit, Kola, now a big man with a flashy car and gold rings. Josiah, Kola said, lighting a cigar, you're wasting your time. This world doesn't reward clean hands. If you want your church to grow, you need power, real power. Pastor Josiah frowned. Power from where? Kola smiled slowly, like someone with a terrible secret. From the river, he whispered. There is a spirit who gives pastors what they need, crowds, miracles, money. But only to those who dare. Josiah laughed at first. But that night, sleep didn't come. The words danced in his head like fireflies, power, crowds, miracles. And deep inside him, something started to wake up. Something hungry. 3 days after Kola's visit, Pastor Josiah could no longer resist the voice inside him. His wife noticed he had changed. He stopped praying at night, and he stared at the wall for hours. The Bible that never left his hand now sat untouched on the wooden table. On the 4th night, Kola returned. Are you ready? He asked with a grin. Josiah nodded slowly. What do I have to lose? They drove in silence through the dark corners of Lagos, passing quiet streets and sleeping houses, until they reached the edge of the city. There, a narrow bush path waited, hidden behind an old signboard. This is where we walk, Kola said, stepping out. Josiah followed. The night was thick. The only sound was the crunch of dry leaves under their feet and the distant cry of a night owl. They walked for nearly 30 minutes until they reached the calm river. It flowed slowly, glowing under the moonlight like it was alive. By the riverbank stood a small wooden shrine. A bowl of palm oil, a white cloth, and a broken mirror lay in front of it. Kola took off his shoes. Bow. Josiah hesitated. I said bow. Josiah dropped to his knees. Kola stepped forward and began to speak in a strange language, his voice deep and trembling. The wind picked up. The river bubbled. The mirror cracked further. Then, the water split. Not completely. Just enough for something to rise. She was tall. Beautiful. Skin like black glass. Hair long and wet. Eyes like deep wells of sorrow. She didn't speak. She only stared. Kola knelt. Great Mother of the river, we bring you a servant. Josiah's body shook. He wanted to run, but his legs were frozen. Then the spirit spoke, voice calm like water but sharp like a knife. You want power? Then your hands must be tied to me forever. Before he could answer, the river swallowed the shrine in one loud splash. The mirror shattered. And Josiah fainted. Pastor Josiah woke up on his church altar. He didn't know how he got there. His clothes were wet. His Bible was open, but the words looked different, sharper, darker, almost alive. The fan was spinning, even though there was no power. Outside, the sky was still dark. A cock crowed in the distance. Had it all been a dream? Then he heard it, a voice in his head. Your journey has started. Speak, and they will believe. The next Sunday came, and everything changed. Josiah stood to preach like he always did, but this time, his voice echoed louder than usual. As he opened his mouth, strange words flew out, deep, powerful, commanding. The few members in the church began to shake. Mama Kemi's blind son screamed, I can see. The old women began to dance and roll on the floor. By the end of the service, news had already spread. A man of God in Ajigona was raising the dead. The next Sunday, the church was full. The one after that, people stood outside in the sun just to hear him speak. Crutches were left behind. Testimonies flowed like a river. Even rich men from Lekki came with envelopes. Pastor Josiah bought new suits. His wife wore lace. His name filled radio stations and Instagram feeds. Holy Mountain of Divine Fire became a place of signs and wonders. But every night, the voice returned. Your fame is growing. But don't forget who opened the door. One night, as he prayed, blood dripped from the ceiling. His Bible caught fire on its own. He screamed, but no one heard. Ngozi rushed in. The church was calm. Nothing was burning. She touched his face. Are you okay? Josiah smiled weakly. Yes, just tired. But deep down, he knew something had followed him from that river. Something watching. Something waiting. The church kept growing. Each Sunday, more people came. Testimonies filled the air like perfume. Children who could not speak suddenly began singing. Barren women danced with swollen bellies. Even big pastors from across Lagos came to see the man of fire. Pastor Josiah was no longer the man with broken shoes. He drove a black jeep. He wore white designer suits. He built a bigger church with ACs and glowing lights. A giant signboard outside read, Holy Mountain of Divine Fire, where God speaks through fire. But the fire was not from heaven. At night, Josiah slept on a soft bed, but his dreams became restless. One night, he saw himself walking into the river again. The water rose slowly and covered his legs, then his waist, then his chest. He tried to turn back, but something held him down. Then he saw her, the river spirit. She was weeping. Her tears turned into snakes, and they slithered toward him. She whispered, voice like thunder in water. The deeper you go, the harder it is to return. Josiah woke up gasping for air. Ngozi held him close. You were screaming again, she said. This is the third time this week. He wiped his forehead. It was soaked in sweat. Just a bad dream, he whispered. But deep in his heart, he knew it was more than that. Later that day, a young prophet came to the church. A small boy, no more than 15. He came barefoot, with a wooden staff and torn clothes. I must speak to the pastor, he said. The ushers laughed. Go home, boy. This is not a playground. But the boy shouted, and his voice shook the walls. Pastor Josiah has opened a gate he cannot close. Silence fell. The boy's eyes turned white. He has mixed the river with the altar. If he does not stop, the river will take what it gave and more. Josiah stood at the pulpit, frozen. The voice in his head laughed. Now they are sending children. The ushers dragged the boy out. The crowd cheered. But Josiah couldn't clap. He just stood there, sweating, while the lights flickered above him.